I have 3:00. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone. And I now call today's meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to order. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis peoples and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters. The purpose of this meeting is to review applications for consent or minor variances as they apply to certain lands within the municipality of Meaford. Let me first introduce the members of this committee. On my far right, Mr. David Cramp, Mr. Ed Ormsby, Mr. Cam Hall, who's the vice chair of this committee, and on my far left, Mr. Peter Tobel, and myself, Terry Williams, I am the chair. The municipal planning staff in attendance are Denise McCarl, Manager of Planning Services, Helena Fascinato, Planner, Gabe Pucci, Development Services Assistant and Secretary Treasurer for this committee. This committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the Planning Act provincially, as well as the existing county and local official plans. Based on these documents, the municipal planning staff have prepared detailed reports and recommendations for this committee. The municipality encourages the community to share their thoughts about proposed applications. For those who are joining us today via Zoom or are here in person, you will have the opportunity to speak should you wish to do so. I will call upon you at the appropriate time. Your constructive comments to this committee will help us to make informed decisions on these applications. It's also appropriate to ask questions you may have as it relates to these applications. Should you wish to do so, the applicant or their representatives will also have the opportunity to respond to any comments or questions raised either by the committee or the members of the public. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the decision on these applications may do so by contacting planning at meaford.ca or by phone 519-538-1060, extension 1120. Gabe, are there any changes to the agenda?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no changes to the agenda. Thank you.
Have the members of this committee had the opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting?
Yes.
Are there any changes necessary?
No.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept.
Cam, seconded by David. All in favor? Before we get into the formal stage, I must ask the committee members if they have any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any of the files today that would rot them from making an informed decision.
No.
Thank you. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for a minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 193 Boucher Street East. The requirement for this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 10 days prior to this meeting? And can you summarize the application and any comments received?
Through you, Mr. Chair, notice was given on January 11, 2024, giving more than the required 10 days notice. And the property owner is requesting a variance in order to build a new deck. The location of the proposed deck is within 6 meters of a slope, which exceeds a ratio of 3:1 which is prohibited per section 4.23.3 of zoning bylaw 60/2009 as amended. The property owner is requesting the two following variances as part of this application. Relief from the 6-meter setback from a slope which exceeds a ratio of 3:1. And second, permission to the deck for the deck to encroach approximately 3.2 meters over the slope, which exceeds a ratio of 3:1. The official plan designation of the lands is urban living area. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise, are there any additional comments on this file?
So I get to be in the wonderful position to take this file from Meredith for today. So I'm doing both because we didn't want to all in our entire department come to the Committee of Adjustment and leave us a big hole over at Planning Services. So, but I think I know this one pretty well. So hopefully I have all the information that you're looking for. It's a really unfortunate one because as you will remember, some of you will remember, we did a variance on this property previously for the actual construction of the house. At that time, and then that application was actually submitted by a planning consultant for the owner, and that was approved. So they can construct the house. They were able to construct their house, and it's now there, as you've probably seen. And at the time of the previous variance, we didn't know about the deck, so the deck wasn't part of any consideration at that time. And if you've been out on the property, you'll see that it does slope pretty significantly at the back. So there isn't a lot of flat area to have as a sort of outdoor area, living area. That puts them in a difficult spot. So I think what they've proposed is putting in this deck in the slope with the appropriate engineered helical piles to support the deck to be able to be in that slope. One thing I wanted to point out is that the report, which kind of goes through some of the things that explain this application very well, but condition number 2 in the report, we've just tweaked a little bit. So I just wanted to make note of that. So the reason we added that condition, so the first condition was just that the deck is the way that they say they're proposing it now. So it's not a bigger deck or anything like that. It's the deck that they're proposing, which is about, I think it's about 8 feet deep. So it's not a very deep deck by the width of the property. So I think it comes out to 5.9 meters long by 2-point-something meters wide. Anyways, it's so that deck gives them that outdoor area. It has 2 levels. But what the first condition is pretty standard, just says this variance is to the site plan that we have in for this application. The second one, though, talked a little bit about this engineer, and that is from the company that does these particular helical piles. This engineer has made recommendations for additional supports for the deck beyond what was proposed, and to make sure that it can support this deck in the slope that's there, given that there is no slope stability study or anything like that for this property. We've tweaked it just a little bit between the deputy chief building official and myself, and Gabe has the copy in the decision, and it really just says this something very similar to the report, but just says it leaves a little bit more open-ended that we would like this engineer to sign off on the design. He's prepared to do that if they do the recommendations that are shown in this report of the depth of the 15 feet and the 5 tieback piles to be added to what they have shown previously on their design. But we just left a little bit more open-ended in case there's an alternative design that he's okay with, and that we're not giving the exact number or anything like that in the actual decision, in case there's some other tweak that they end up needing to do. But the building department was happy with that, and they were supportive of having that be a condition so that they know what they're doing next. If it gets approved, they will know what to do through the building permit stage. I think one of the surprising things about this is we don't really have comments from the Conservation Authority with any concerns about it, even though it's our understanding that the Conservation Authority's recommendations are why this particular provision is in our zoning bylaw. So we had expected to get a comment, but it looks like in this particular case, they don't have any interest in this particular property and this slope. So they didn't provide any comments. with any concerns or anything like that, or ask for any additional information. So if there's anything else that you wanted me to touch on, I'm happy to do that, but otherwise I will leave it to questions.
Have the committee members had an opportunity to review the property, and based on the file, are there any additional questions for the planning department? Ed?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I remember this variance of the house. The deck was overlooked by the owner. Didn't explain that they were going to add a deck to the back of the house at the original. I don't recall that part of it. So thank you.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the question. So there was no deck shown on the site plan at that time. So it was more on the other aspects of the house that were being considered for the variance. They didn't show a deck. And I think at that time, we just assumed that they weren't putting anything back there. Or maybe creating a bit of a terrace or something like that through the backyard just to flatten some areas out, but nothing had come forward. So I checked the site plan, there wasn't a deck in it at that time.
Any additional questions? Does the applicant, is the applicant present? Would you care to make any comments? If so, can you please go to the podium, identify yourself and turn on the mic.
Thank you. My name is Matt Benandel and I'm the applicant for the owner. She's not around right now. She's out of country. And I just want to thank the planning department for acknowledging the fact of the helical piles in case any tweaks need to be made. That was one thing pretty much the only thing I was just looking for in case we had something come up for that. And I understand, I wasn't there at the original variance, but I understand why they had some delays and they had to change the plan up. And now they said, well, we couldn't do a retaining wall due to other engineers coming in and delaying their house build. So then they opted for a deck at a later date. That's why we're here. Thank you.
So if you are representing the applicant, are they willing to go by the requests that are put in here, the conditions?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Is there any members of the public? Obviously not. Any final comments, questions?
Could you just repeat what the conditions are again?
And so, through you, Mr. Chair, Gabe could read them. I think he's got the final version in
Yeah.
front of him. So if he
I was gonna say.
wants to read it out.
Yeah.
The first condition is just that it's substantially in accordance with the site plan, and the site plan is actually, it's on the conditions there. Yeah. And the second one is the one that I think that
Right.
Gabe might want to read out.
Yeah.
The second condition is that the applicant provides a helical pile design approved by the Dalibor Mendic, professional engineer, geostructural engineer for Mascor helical piles to the satisfaction of the building department. Thank you.
So can you read the formal suggested decision then, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The decision is that the Committee of Adjustment grant minor variance application A01-2024 to permit the development of the lands in accordance with the site sketch and the following two conditions. The first condition is that the construction of the deck shall occur substantially in accordance with the site plan of the schedule. And the second one is that the applicant provides a helical pile design approved by Dalibor Mendic, professional engineer, geostructural engineer for Mascor helical piles to the satisfaction of the building department. Thank you.
Any comments, questions? No. Can I then have a motion on this decision? Peter and Ed, all in favor? That motion is carried. Gabe, can you please outline the next steps?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The next step is that the applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal of the appeal period. Also, the applicant can take down the sign from their property. Thank you.
Thank you. No. fully signed, we will now begin with the next one. It's a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 45 of the Planning Act for lands known as 204-648 Highway 26. Requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 14 days prior to the meeting and summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received?
Through you, Mr. Chair, notice was given on January 11, 2024, giving more than the required 14 days notice. The purpose of this application is to sever a lot from existing lands at 204648 Highway 26. The severed lot would be approximately 4.04 hectares in size with approximately 226 meters of frontage on Highway 26 and would contain the existing residential dwelling. The retained lands would be added to the adjacent 19.2 hectare property with 345 meters of frontage on Highway 26 by way of lot addition for lands conservation purposes. Both properties are owned by the Bruce Trail Conservancy. Comments with generally no concern or objection were received by Historic Saugeen Métis, Grey County, Grey Sobel Conservation Authority, and Niagara Escarpment Commission. However, there were comments with recommendation from Ministry of Transportation and with a few concerns, and the planner on file will be able to address them. Thank you.
Elena, can you please give us the additional comments on these files?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to note that since the agenda was circulated, the retained and the severed lands have been swapped. This is because the retained lands in a severance application typically will keep the assessment roll number and the address. So we want to ensure that the retained lands will be the parcel with the existing dwelling on it. So if the severance is approved, then that will keep the fire number, the address, the roll number. And an updated sketch will be shown in the decision that shows the retained and the severed parcels. So this application is for a lot addition where no new development is proposed. The intent of the owner, the Bruce Trail Conservancy, is to secure a portion of the Bruce Trail optimum route corridor. And I just wanted to touch on the comments received from MTO. So planning staff has been in discussion with MTO following these comments and also with the applicant. So just looking at the comments, so MTO noted that the adjacent parcel to which the severed lot will be added to has frontage on Highway 26 and Gray Road 18. So staff note that through the Planning Act, the committee is not able to put conditions on any adjacent parcels. So that's out of the scope of the application. So this application is for the severed and retained parcel only. So staff don't feel that it's appropriate to add that condition. And MTO commented that an NPO entrance permit would be required to define ownership and permitted uses of the retained lot. So planning staff acknowledged that this lot, so the retained lot is now the lot with the existing dwelling on it. So we acknowledge that there's an existing entrance, but MTO would like to add in that condition, so that has been reflected, and I'll just go through the conditions for this application. So the recommended conditions of consent are: 1, that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that this approval is for a lot addition only, and subsection 50 or 3 or 5 of the Act shall apply to any subsequent conveyance of or transaction involving the same parcel. 3, that confirmation is provided that the severed parcel shall be merged on title with the abutting parcel, and any mortgage on the lot to be extended to the enlarged parcel. 4, that the applicant provide confirmation and new MTO entrance permit is obtained for the retained parcel. And 5, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. So that's all I have, and I understand that the applicant is on the line as well. Thank you.
Does the committee have any questions for the planning staff at this time?
Not here.
I do. I'm still confused between severed and retained portions on this. I assumed that where the building is going to be the retained portion. But then okay, so the severed portion is the same as on this map and it goes,
So on
the
the,
abutting
the map that Gabe has in the decision is an updated version. So the map that's in the report,
I see that.
yeah.
Okay, so it's been switched. Thank you. I'll save my comments. Are there any other questions at this time? Would the applicant like to speak, if they're here, or are
Yes.
they on?
Yes, thank
Online.
you very much. I'm presuming that you can hear me. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name's Anton Diamond. I work for the Bruce Trail Conservancy and I'm an agent for these applications. I just want to thank you so much for hearing our proposals today. We've come to you before actually to conserve escarpment lands in the Bruce Trail corridor. We've got a number of applications that have been approved by your committee. We've got about 106 kilometers of Bruce Trail that passes through your municipality. It's not all secured though. These applications will permanently secure sections of the trail so that we can continue to provide this public good forever. I don't know how many of you are hikers of the Bruce Trail, but we know that it is used by local residents to have, and it's important to them to have access to these green spaces and to connect with nature along the trail. And we also know how important the trail is to attract visitors to the area. I'll leave that for now. I have nothing to add to staff reports, which are really comprehensive and thorough. So I want to thank Helena and Denise for that. But I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does committee members have any questions?
I do know.
So is the building presently occupied?
No,
The dwelling?
No, the building is vacant.
And that land will then eventually be sold.
That's right. Yes, we fundraise for these properties, and the sale of the house will go towards recouping some of the money that we've had to spend on conserving these the backlands. It's also a good thing. I mean, it's a good house. It should be kept in the marketplace. It should be part of the municipality's tax base as well. So these types of transactions aren't our favorite. We don't always want to do what we call a buy, sever and sell. They're very, very expensive. There's a lot of risk involved to us. Currently it's being managed by a property manager. We're having to pay insurance on it and everything else. But occasionally we just have to do them. And in this instance, that's the case. As I said, it's not our favorite way of securing land. Ideally, we would just acquire the conservation land at the back, which is what often a landowner will do. They will allow us just to buy, or they will donate a portion of the backlands for the corridor and keep their, house or whatever the building lot that they want to retain. But in this instance, we're buying the whole thing, and hopefully we'll sell the house in the spring.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public at this point in time? Any final comments, questions, committee? Gabe, can you please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions for this consent?
In making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. So the Committee of Adjustment grants provisional consent with the following conditions: that the applicant meets all requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued, that this approval is for a lot addition only, and subsection 53 or 5 of the Act shall apply to any subsequent conveyance of or transaction involving the same parcel. That confirmation is provided that the severed parcel shall be merged on title with the abutting parcel, and any mortgage on the lot be extended to the enlarged parcel. That the applicant provide confirmation a new MTO entrance permit is obtained for the retained parcel. And that the final reference plan be provided to municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you.
Now call for a motion, a decision as read. David, Peter, any comments, questions? No.
Mr. Chair. The applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, the applicant can now take down the sign from the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a short recess while we formally sign that. Committee of Adjustment will now consider an application for consent under section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 318143 Highway 6 and 10. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 14 days prior to this meeting and summarize the application and any comments that have been received so far?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Notice was given on January 11th, 2024, giving more than the required 14 days notice. The applicant, Bruce Trail Conservancy, seeks consent to sever vacant lands from the property located at 318143 Highway 6 and 10 for conservation purposes and to secure a section of the Bruce Trail optimum route. The proposed severed lot would be approximately 6.68 hectares in size with approximately 97 meters of frontage on Highway 6 and 10. The retained parcel would be approximately 9.59 hectares in size and would have approximately 312 meters of frontage on Highway 6 and 10 and would contain all existing structure. The land are designated Niagara Escarpment Plan area in Meaford official plan. Comments were received with generally no concern or objection by Historic Saugimeti, Grey County, Grey Sobel Conservation Authority, and Niagara Escarpment Commission. However, Ministry of Transportation had a few concerns that the planner on file will be able to address. Thank you very much.
Elena, can you give us further information on this file?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So as Gabe mentioned, this application is to create a new lot for conservation use. Similar to the previous application, the applicant Bruce Trail Conservancy is looking to secure a portion of the Bruce Trail Optimum Route corridor. So this property is within the NEP, and the Niagara Escarpment Commission has been supportive of the application. So comments from MTO have noted that a consent and access would not be supported by them. So planning staff, along with the applicant, have been in discussion with MTO. I will note that this application is to sever trail lands that are going to be used for continued pedestrian access, and no development is proposed. And the applicant is once again joining and can speak to that further. So planning staff have included a condition to reflect the comments received from MTO. So I'll read out the conditions now. One, that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. Two, that the applicant provides written confirmation from MTO that any outstanding MTO concerns about trail location and access have been satisfied. And three, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. So that's all I have right now, and the applicant is joining us as well. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee members? A little bit further on the MTO's comments that they would not allow access.
Yes, yeah. So from my understanding, MTO, in their comments, they sent through for that section of arterial highway that they would typically not permit an additional entrance, just because that section of highway is a busier section, for lack of better explanation. But the applicant is not looking to put in any entrance to the property. It will solely be for pedestrian use. So we've included a condition that would note that MTO, that this severance will not be approved until MTO is satisfied on their end, that the applicant will meet all of their requirements.
Would the applicant care to make any additional comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This actual crossing is there by necessity. The Bruce Trail actually crosses numerous provincial highways, has done for 60 years. The trail location was formalized by the province through MNRF more than 30 years ago. We've engaged MTO in response to roadworks and proactively on numerous occasions in an attempt to explain who we are and what we do. In this particular instance, the trail has crossed this section of highway by necessity. It's a safer crossing area. It actually improves situation by taking a whole stretch of Bruce Trail off the highway. As Helena has explained, we are creating a lot for conservation purposes, for pedestrian access only. It's just a treadway, a simple trail. I'll continue to work with Jessica so that from MTO, so that she can better understand what we're about. In truth, we submitted a brief to the ministry in 2019 describing who we were and what we were doing. We also met with MTO staffers David Secure and Sarah Jewell back in 2018 at the Owen Sound offices to discuss highway crossings. Every time we've attempted to reach out to proactively engage with them, nothing has transpired. There's never been any response. That said, we will keep trying. And as I said, in this instance, we're more than happy to address any concerns, sign an encroachment agreement, or whatever it is that the MTO require of us. And I'll continue to talk to Jessica so that we can satisfy any concerns that they have.
Thank you. Are there any comments by the public? No. Any final comments or questions, committee? Gabe, can you please give us the suggested decision and conditions of that consent?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent of the and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plans, and represents good planning. The Committee of Adjustment grant provisional consent upon following conditions. That the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consents to be issued. That the applicant provide written confirmation from MTO that any outstanding MTO concerns about trail location and access have been satisfied. That the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you.
So
Mr. Chair, the applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, they can now take down the sign from the property. Thank you.
thank you. Now consider an application for consent under section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 106 Georgian Beach Road South. The requirement to hold this meeting must be that there is at least 14 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 14 days prior to this meeting, and then summarize the application and any comments that have been received?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Notice was given on January 11, 2024, giving more than the required 14 days notice. This application seeks permission to adjust the lot lines between two properties, also known as a lot addition. The proposal is to sever a 458 square meter area of land with 15 meters of frontage from the lands at 102 Georgian Beach Lane. If approved, the severed lot would be added to the adjacent property at 106 Georgian Beach Road South. The retained lands would then be 7,572 square meters in area, with the 29 meters of frontage on Georgian Beach Road South. The lands would have access on Georgian Beach Lane, an open and maintained municipal road. The lands are designated shoreline in the Meaford official plan. No comments with concern were received this time, and there were comments with no concern or objection by Grey County and Grey Sobel Conservation Authority. Thank you.
Denise, are there any additional comments to be made at this time?
I'm not sure if I have any additional comments because we have had a similar application, so I may need to go over a few things just so everyone feels comfortable with what's happening. But in the past, Georgian Beach Road has been slotted for eventual closure, and then just to be sold, portions of it to be sold to adjacent landowners and just become part of those building fabrics of those properties. And the reason for that is because it cannot be maintained in a municipal condition due to the location, and it is subject to damage and erosion and things like that. However, not all of the properties over there have access to an alternate route. Couple of years ago, we came before the committee, I think it was a year and a half ago, and secured a few easements for some of those folks that didn't have a through lot to an alternate route, which is Georgian Beach Lane. This is actually one of those properties. And the reason it's coming here today is because the new property owner of those adjacent lands that would benefit from the easement that we attempted to put in place previously is actually interested in just purchasing that a portion of the property. It's a little bit more than what the easement would be, but to secure that instead, and that property owner that would was interested in selling it to them. So this would replace the easement. The easement did not get finalized on this particular property, and so it would just replace that. So if anyone has questions about what the background, I can attempt to put some of that together. However, I think the most important part is that the municipality is planning to close Georgian Beach Road and open up or allow everybody to have access from Georgian Beach Lane, which is a completely private road that the municipality has nothing to do with for maintenance purposes. However, they weren't prepared to close that road until everyone has access legally, because they don't want to leave anybody with no legal access to their property, and that would just not be appropriate. So we were waiting on the satisfying all these easements and some other stuff that had to happen. We're close on that. And the municipality is very interested in closing it. As you heard from another application earlier this year, it affects people's frontage and which side that their cottage is oriented to. The one thing I wanted to point out, because we don't have any real comments or concerns really about this, because this is really kind of the same thing we'd already attempted to do previously, except through easement. One thing I wanted to point out, Meredith asked me to just highlight for you, is that in the report, the nomenclature is reversed. So there's a few places where we call it Georgian Beach Lane when we meant Georgian Beach Road for the addressing between 102 and 106. So 102 has frontage, I'll call it, on both of those roads, the private and the public road. And 106 just has access onto Georgian Beach Road, which is why they're seeking to do this lot addition. So there'll be basically a through lot for a period of time until we close Georgian Beach Road. And then their address would then become Georgian Beach Lane. So hopefully, if you caught that difference in there, I think if you focus on the Severance sketch that they provided, it's actually correct. So it's just about getting it in your mind and typing it one way and having it be the incorrect one. But the Severance sketch, I believe, is correct.
Does any member of the committee have any questions? For this file, and so you're saying the easement was never formalized?
So the easements, Gabe went through this with us because he was the secretary treasurer having to go through some of the stamping, and it's a very convoluted set of easements. It's not as simple as convoluted as the application seemed before. The actual easements are even more so because portions of Georgian Beach Lane are owned individually. It's not one road. We did stamp those as approved in, I think, October or so. November. But then this particular one did not get registered because of this new scenario that they would like to do. So whether it got registered or not, it would end up being ineffectual because it would be an easement to themselves. So it would actually disappear anyways. So that's probably why they held off. But one of the conditions that we are recommending is just to have them make sure that they got everything that they need to provide access on Georgian Beach Lane, because of the fact that everybody was giving some, I'll call them reciprocal. I don't think that's the right word in this case, but they were giving access to each other along that strip as part of this. It wasn't just those 3 strips that we were talking about, the way that it was being structured when we actually were stamping it. And we got our lawyer, the municipal lawyer, reviewed it all. So I just want to make sure that they still are getting all the access they need at Georgia Beach Lane. So to make sure that that gets finalized as part of this. So it wasn't just as simple of, oh, we don't need to do that easement anymore. If it was actually giving a little bit more than just what, just to cross one of the properties, because I think that is what it was doing, given the number of stamps that we had to do a few months back.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Do they wish to make any comments?
Hi, my name is Ray. So I'm the applicant and owner of 106 Georgian Beach Lane, who's purchasing the property right now. And I would just like to thank Mr. Chair and the committee for listening up. This application will kind of help us in planning the house as well, just because of the restriction on the lot size and the septic system in place, recommended by a planner to see if we can purchase the property to appropriately use the land. And therefore we approached our neighbor and it also having the easement didn't make the title much more included. So it's just easier to own it as one property, and therefore the application for the lot addition and owning the neighbor's property itself. No additional comments from me, but I'm here if any other information is needed.
Are there any questions from committee members? No, that's fine. Any public? No. Final opportunity, comments, questions? Gabe, can you please provide us with the suggested decision and the conditions of the consent?
Through you, Mr. Chair. In making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application complies with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, County of Grey official plan, and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. The decision is that the Committee of Adjustment grant provisional consent upon the following conditions: that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial or otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. This approval is for a lot addition only, and subsection 53 or 5 of the Act shall apply to any subsequent conveyance of or transaction involving the same parcel. That the severed parcel be permanently merged on title with the abutting parcel, and any mortgage on the lot be extended to the enlarged parcel. That confirmation is provided to the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer that legal access to Georgian Beach Lane is provided for the receiver lands known as 106 Georgian Beach Road South. And last, that the final reference plan shall be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. May I have a motion then?
Chair. The applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, you can take now down the sign from your property. Thank you.
Thank you. Adjustment will now consider an application for consent under section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 397-641 10th concession. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 14 days prior to this meeting? And if so, summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received so far.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This application, the notice was given on January 11, 2024, giving more than the required 14 days notice. This application requests to sever a vacant parcel from the property located at 397641 10th concession for the purpose of lot creation. The proposed severed lot would be approximately 1.0 hectare with approximately 52 meters of frontage on 10th concession. The retained parcel would be approximately 76.94 hectares with approximately 311 meters of combined frontage on 10th concession and would include the existing cabin. The severed lot would be serviced by a private well and septic system. The 10th concession is an open and maintained municipal road. Comments with generally no concern or objection were received from Historic, Saugeen Métis, and Grey Sobel Conservation Authority. However, Grey County had a few concerns regarding wetlands mapping not reflected on the Meaford official plan, and the planner on file will be able to address with more care those comments. Thank you.
Elena, could you give us additional information, please?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So our municipal mapping and the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority mapping does not show a wetland where the severed land will be located, but the county mapping does. So the county sent out a staff member who conducted a site visit and determined that there is in fact no wetland where the severed lot will be located. That staff member connected with the ministry to for their approval. So county staff is still waiting on either their approval or confirmation that the county is the delegated authority who has the final say to remove the wetland. So based on that, the county has recommended a condition that I'll read out in a moment. And there is also a location on the severed lot that is outside of the wetland area that the county mapping is showing. So they have proposed that this could be an alternate location for the driveway, so that it would be outside of that wetland area. So the applicant is here as well, and I'll let them speak following I'll just read out the recommended conditions first. So one, that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. 2, payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the severed lands. 3, confirmation that an entrance permit is available from the road authority will be provided by the applicant prior to final approval. 4, that further clarity be received from MNRF to determine who may act as the approval authority for altering provincially significant wetland mapping, or should further direction not be achievable, that the applicant construct the proposed driveway outside of the mapped PSW boundary as shown in Schedule A of the county's official plan. And 5, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. So that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee members?
Good afternoon. I'm Rod Davidson, planning consultant. You're getting to know me by now, I think. Paul and Ritz, the owners of the property. This is a very straightforward application. There is a minor thing that we should talk about here. It sounds maybe worse than it is because there's no wetlands. So let's just start there. So it is a straightforward application, conforms with the official plan of Meaford and Grey County. There's not an issue, conforms to the zoning requirements. So there's no zoning law amendment required. So first thing Paul did is when he called me to take a look at this property several months ago, I said, it looks like you've got some wetland in the southwest corner of your property. I went out and saw the property. It's not a wetland because that same little wetland polygon, if you will, appears to apply to this residential lot to the south. That residential lot to the south has a lawn, a garage, a driveway. So we approached the ecologist at Grey County. The ecologist walked the site. Paul's on the site with him. He said, that's not a wetland. In fact, it's not even hazard land. It does fall under the regulated area of the Conservation Authority. So there will be a permit required. So we thought everything was fine. We filed the application. And then last Thursday, we heard from the county planner saying, well, you know, our paperwork doesn't show it, or pardon me, our paperwork still shows it as being significant wetland. I said, let's have a meeting. So Helena was great on Friday. We organized a meeting with herself, the county planner, the county ecologist, and the Conservation Authority, as well as Paul. And so, yeah, I mean, what we know for sure is there's new wetland mapping that the Conservation Authority has. It doesn't show up as a wetland. So the Conservation Authority is adamant it's not a wetland. Meaford's most up-to-date mapping shows it as not a wetland, so it's not a wetland. So the county mapping, which is outdated, needs to be updated, and they show it as a wetland. So at the end of the day, the condition number 4, it's silly to put in there. I mean, there's no harm in putting it in there other than it leads Paul to believe that he might have to shift the driveway. Well, just so you know, with regard to the driveway, the county ecologist also said, show us where you're going to put it. So Paul provided mapping to me, and I made it part of the application. It's going right down the middle, and then it's going to turn a little bit. So as you heard, the development is to take place further back outside of the so-called wetland and outside of the wooded area, not an issue. So, and Paul asked permission from the county ecologist to start removing trees. So he did. They're not all gone. He has to go back due to weather. He didn't get it done. So, I mean, the idea that maybe he's going to be forced to put the driveway further north on the severed parcel, well, that would suggest that he's going to actually have two swaths of land, two swaths cut out of the trees. One where he's putting in the driveway as per the okay of the county ecologist, and then one potentially further north. Having said all that, I don't think this isn't going anywhere. I think the county will learn that their mapping is wrong. They did try to find out from MNRF who is the keeper, if you will, of wetland mapping. They just hadn't heard back. I don't like to use the word silly. It does seem silly to include condition number 4. My joke is it kind of gives red tape a bad name. But I won't make that joke. That's it. I would ask that you not include that. It's just, it really seems to be unnecessary. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Davidson? No. Can you reread condition 4?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Condition 4 is that further clarity be received from MNRF to determine who may act as the approval authority for altering provincially significant wetlands mapping, or should further direction not be achievable, that the applicant construct the proposed driveway outside the map PSW boundary as shown in Schedule A of the county's official plan. Thank you.
So if I understand it correctly, the driveway is where it's shown in Appendix A or whatever it was.
So the driveway has not been constructed,
But the trees have been cleared.
Some of the trees or half the trees or whatever have been cleared. Yes. Again, in accordance with the permission of the county ecologist.
Thank you. Any members of the public wishing to make a statement? Yes, Mr. Ormsby.
I'm a little gray yet, I guess. So if we grant this, the county's basically saying, well, maybe, but we got to move the driveway. So if we grant it, what, is the applicant still up against it as far as the county goes?
Not quite sure. Up against.
I apologize. Do they still seek approval from the county? Like the county's basically saying now that the driveway should be moved, correct?
The county's not saying it has to be removed. They're saying until such time as we get better wetland mapping that shows this not as a wetland, we prefer Paul not to put in the driveway where it was. But if it turns out that there is wetland mapping, and I'm sorry, if it turns out that this is a wetland, then Paul can simply put the driveway on the property just further north, which would mean again, two swaths of land. I don't think anybody that was involved in this discussion last week believes for 1 second that it's a wetland. And it is, I'll be quite honest, it's kind of odd that you have the county ecologist and the county planner, and I would say this to their face, I get along great with everybody, but I mean, it's kind of odd that they're having this discussion where, I mean, it really puts the ecologist in an awkward spot with the senior planner making that comment. Through Mr. Chair.
Well, Mayor, thank you. Just want to add to Ron's comments that the county ecologist, he also has a designation to define where wetlands are. And he's requesting permission of MNRF to go ahead and clarify or correct the incorrect mapping. Like, you can understand my frustration when you got three houses south of where we're trying to, I believe three houses, at least two, where we're trying to get the severance. We're in the middle of wetland, theoretically, according to this map. So that part is frustrating. But I just wanted to point out in addition that the county ecologist, he does have the designation, WES, I believe it's called, to go ahead and determine if it is a wetland or not. Just wanted to,
Any idea how old the mapping is?
I don't know.
Yeah, so the county official plan, help me out here, 2018, 2019, I believe. Yeah, at least 5 years. And I mean, again, I don't want to read, this is the last time I'll say this. If the Conservation Authority had mapping that suggested there's a wetland, we would know. They would be, their arms would be flailing and they'd be saying, guys, you can't do this. Clint Stredwick, the planner for the Conservation Authority, could not have been more clear. This isn't a wetland. So.
Any last minute comments, questions?
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I don't want the applicant to be having to cut two spots through his bush if he doesn't have to. That was the only reason I had that question. Thank you.
Gabe, then can you provide us with the suggested decision and conditions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. The decision is that the Committee of Adjustment grant provisional consent upon following conditions: that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued, payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the severed lands, confirmation that an entrance permit is available from the road authority will be provided by the applicant prior to the final approval, that further clarity be received from MNRF to determine who may act as the approval authority for altering provincially significant wetlands mapping, or should further direction not be achievable, that the applicant construct the proposed driveway outside the mapped PSW boundary as shown in Schedule A of the county's official plan. And final, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you.
From that motion, I sense, Mr. Ormsby, that you would like to remove that one condition. Are there any other comments or Cam?
I agree with Mr. Ormsby. I'd like to see that number 4 removed.
If the committee chooses to remove that, is there any potential issues for this consent?
I don't foresee any issues. In discussion with the county, they're on the same page regarding that wetland, and that it is a mapping error on the county's end. So if that is removed, I don't foresee any issues, with that.
Yes.
I'm just jumping in. I believe we brought another version without it in there. Did we not? We made one without it in there. In case we were trying to anticipate you. Just in case you asked us to remove it, but if we don't have it, we should. That was one of the reasons I like having a 2-page with 2 separate pages, then we can throw out. Okay, because we can throw out the second page and just strike off that and sub in a new second page with it out tomorrow.
Is there any sense on how long it would take to correct this mapping?
I'm gonna let Helene answer, but I will say that we did meet with the planning ecologist today on another matter when it could come up. So we don't have I don't know if she has it will be 2 weeks. I don't think Helene is gonna say that. Maybe she will. But I will say that it did come up and we've been trying to kind of guess a little bit.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Denise was saying. We did meet with the county ecologist on another matter today. And they did mention that they're trying to expedite this and they understand the frustration surrounding this issue. And so sooner rather than later, but we don't have a date. Because it's up.
Best guess.
It's up to the ministry to respond to the county ecologists. So unfortunately, they're really trying though to get an answer soon.
Then I ask the committee members what their thoughts are relative to this. Do we leave in the recommendation number 4 or take it out? David?
I too would echo Ed and Kim in removing that section.
Peter?
Yes, I'd also support.
And so would I. So can you now read it minus that one condition, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement that conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plan and represents good planning. So the decision is to grant provisional consent upon following conditions: that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued, payment of cash in lieu or parkland dedication for the severed lands, confirmation that an entrance permit is available from the road authority will be provided by the applicant prior to the final approval. And the last, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality.
You have a motion on the decision? Peter and Ed. All in favor? That motion is carried. Next steps?
Yep. To you, Mr. Chair, the applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. And now you can take off the sign from your land. Thank you.
Thank you. Just, can you just? Oh. Yeah, okay. Yep. Peter and Ed.
No worries. Thanks, I don't know.
The next meeting is scheduled February the 28th. And with that, this meeting is now adjourned.